After rebirth. On the day of the college entrance exam, my sister asked me to go back and get her ID card. Unaware. I agreed without hesitation and then turned and ran straight to the police station to sleep. In my past life, my sister relied on copying grades to maintain her top student image. On the day of the exam, to prevent me from discovering her cheating and to avoid exposure, she deliberately left her ID at home, asking me to fetch it. By the time I hurried back with her ID, I was already 20 minutes late for the exam. My sister then grabbed our parents and cried. Elder sister hid my ID on purpose so I couldn't take the exam. That's why I scored 0 on the first Chinese test. I could not defend myself. Even my usually fair and just homeroom teacher did not believe me and came forward to scold me. You're always jealous of your sister and antagonize her. How could you hide her ID at such a critical moment? The whole school was counting on you to excel and bring glory. My parents, always biased toward my sister, pushed me into oncoming traffic and I died under the wheels. In the midst of the crowd's jeers, I died in despair. Time rewound. When I opened my eyes, I was back on the day of the exam. Elder sister, I left my ID at home. Can you go get it? Dad and Mom are counting on me for King Bi, Luna said anxiously, tugging at me. I broke into a cold sweat instantly. In the last life, my parents had listened to a charlatan when I was born. Our family has a lucky star. At first, when my parents had me, I was ordinary. But when my sister was born, my father also received news that a work project had passed. From then on, they believed my sister was the lucky star. They always called her their little treasure, their lucky star, and made me yield to her in everything. I grew increasingly resented. I often went hungry and endured drunken beatings from my father. Useless child. Unlike your sister, a lucky star, who brought success the moment she was born. My sister had always been a top student in elementary school. By middle school, her grades began to decline. No matter how hard she tried, she could not return to her past glory. So she took a shortcut, copying answers in exams. Once she tasted success, she stopped working hard and maintained her top student image by cheating. Sis. Did you hear that? Luna pushed at me, snapping me fully awake. I stared at her anxious face, a flicker of calculation hidden in her eyes. My stomach turned. The pain and cold of being crushed under a car in my last life surged back, almost suffocating me. But this time, I took a deep breath, suppressing all emotions. I plastered on a mask of worry and urgency far more convincing than hers. Oh my! Luna, Abakar. How careless. The college entrance exam is such a big deal. I grabbed her arm firmly, making her frown slightly. Don't worry. I'll get it for you as fast as possible. Wait outside the exam hall, and stay calm, don't let nerves affect your test. I spoke quickly, sincerely, making it seem as though her exam was more important than my life. Luna was momentarily taken aback, and shed to tears. Elder sister, you must be quick. I can tent her without my ID dar. I know. Leave it to me. I patted my chest and sprinted home with all my strength, my back radiating determination. Luna watched me run anxiously, a satisfied smirk tugging at her lips. Then she casually turned toward the exam hall. Of course, she wasn't actually waiting. She was setting the stage for me to be late. However, just after the first street corner, completely out of Luna's sight, I abruptly stopped. The worried expression vanished, replaced by icy calm and a hint of mockery. Go home for her ID? Would I be that foolish again? I checked my pockets. My own admission ticket and ID were safe and sound. Unlike last life, this time they might serve another purpose. What was more important now? I scanned the area and locked my eyes on one destination, a place symbolizing justice and security, the police station. Without hesitation, I adjusted my direction and walked steadily toward the station. This time, I would no longer be the innocent victim. I was here to secure the strongest, indisputable alibi and a witness to expose Luna's scheming. Inside the bright police station, the duty officer looked up. Student. What's the matter? College entrance exam today? Encountered a problem? His tone was kind, I immediately adopted a nervous but composed expression. Speaking quickly. Hello, officer. I am too nervous. My heart is racing. I feel dizzy and short of breath. My home is far. I won't make it back in time. Can I sit in your lobby for a while? Calm down. And leave half an hour after the exam starts? Being here feels safe. Reasonable request. Especially for a student on exam day. The officer didn't doubt me. Instead, he said with concern, "Oh, you must be too nervous. Sit down. Sit down. Zhao Wang. Bring the student some warm water. Don't worry. Just relax here. You still have time. Thank you. Really, having fulfilled my obsession. Thank you so much," I said repeatedly, sitting obediently and taking the warm water offered by another officer. I sipped slowly, my gaze quietly passing over the clock on the wall. Minute by minute passed. At the exam hall, Luna must already be unable to enter, performing in front of our parents and teachers. I could almost picture it, tears streaming, accusing me of hiding her ID to ruin her quinoa and beta dreams. My parents furious. The homeroom teacher shaking their head in disappointment. Meanwhile, I, Chloe, sat several kilometers away in the police station lobby, quietly resting under the watchful eyes of several officers. This was my fortress and my strongest counterattack. 15 minutes into the exam, I even leaned back, closing my eyes. Because I knew the storm was coming and I was fully prepared, waiting for them to walk right into it. Sure enough, about 20 minutes after the exam started, hurried, chaotic footsteps sounded outside the police station, mingled with shrill cries and angry shouts. "Officer! Officer! You must help my daughter. That wretch. So cruel. She ruined Luna's future." I slowly opened my eyes. A cold, merciless smile curling my lips. They had arrived. The show was about to begin and I had secured the best seat in the house. The door to the police station lobby was flung open, and my absolutely ridiculous parents stormed in, leading the charge. My father, Gordon, was red-faced with bulging neck veins, while my mother, Grace, had in full sigh, cried and wailed as if the sky had fallen. Right behind them was my sweet little sister Luna, sobbing pitifully, her eyes red and swollen, shoulders shaking, looking as if she had suffered the worst injustice imaginable. And trailing behind them was our supposedly fair and impartial homeroom teacher, Mr. Lee, his brow furrowed, his face a mixture of disappointment and anger. The cast for this little drama was complete. "Officer! Quick! Arrest this malicious woman!" Gordon bellowed, pointing ahead without even seeing who was in the lobby. Spittle flying toward the officers at the reception desk. Grace slapped her thigh, crying and shouting. "She ruined my daughter's college entrance exam. She's jealous that her sister did better and deliberately hid her ID, says she couldn't take the exam. Heaven strike her down." The police officer was momentarily stunned by the scene, but quickly regained his professionalism and said sternly, "Everyone, calm down. This is a police station. Let's hear what happened. Who should be arrested? Who ruined the exam?" Luna sniffled, lifting her tearful, swollen eyes, ready to embellish the story, but her gaze suddenly froze on me, sitting quietly on a bench with a half-full cup of warm water in my hands. Her crying stopped instantly. Her eyes went wide as if she'd seen a ghost. The carefully crafted mask of sorrow cracked, leaving only shock and disbelief. How could I be here? Wasn't I supposed to be rushing to the exam? Sweaty and out of breath? How could I be sitting so calmly at a police station? You? Luna pointed at me, lips trembling, unable to form a single word. Grace and Gordon followed her gaze and went dumbstruck. "Chloe?" Gordon's roar caught in his throat, turning into a startled, unsure yell. Grace's wailing choked off mid-scream, her mouth open, looking ridiculous. Mr. Lee looked equally shocked, glancing between me and Luna, his brow furrowing deeper. "See, sister?" Luna finally found her voice, trembling violently, panic written all over her. How are you here? Weren't you supposed to bring my ID?" Her mind was clearly in chaos. Her question betrayed her priest narrative. I was supposed to be rushing, not leisurely sitting here. I put down my cup, stood up slowly, with the perfect expression of confusion and innocence. Even a hint of surprise at seeing my family. Luna? Mom? Dad? Mr. Lee? Why are you all here? I looked at the officer. Sincere yet slightly apologetic. Officer. These are my family and teacher. They probably came looking for me. Then I turned back to Luna, keeping my expression completely natural. Luna. That's a strange question. Didn't you tell me to calm down, find a place to rest, and settle my nerves? I stepped out because my heart was racing and I felt dizzy, afraid it would affect the afternoon exam. Seeing the police station, I felt safe and came in to rest a bit. What happened? Why didn't you take the exam? And why are you crying like this? My questions were full of concern, the tone unmistakably big sister. I. Luna was completely thrown off by my calm, reasonable questioning. Her brain short-circuiting, stammering, her face red with embarrassment. Grace reacted first, protective as always, shouting sharply, resting? Who told you to rest? Luna told you to go get her ID. Did you get it? Luna couldn't enter the exam without it. She missed her Chinese test. It's all your fault. Gordon snapped back to anger, though something felt off. Yes. You cursed girl. Was this deliberate? Where's the ID? Mr. Lee looked at me, appearing weak and in need of rest, then at the aggressively accusing Luna and her parents. His suspicion wavered slightly, but he still said firmly, Chloe. What exactly is going on? Luna says you promised to retrieve her ID but didn't, causing her to miss the exam. This concerns her future. You must explain. All eyes were on me. I took a deep breath, looking even more confused and slightly aggrieved. Retrieve her ID? Luna, when did you ever ask me to get your ID? The room went completely silent. Luna turned pale instantly. You're lying, she shrieked, desperation sharpening her voice. Right outside the exam hall. You promised me. Everyone saw it. Mom, Dad, Mr. Lee. She tried to pull in witnesses. Grace and Gordon immediately backed her up. Yes. We all saw it. I furrowed my brow, pretending to recall, then suddenly realized, oh. Luna. You mean that? I looked at the officer and Mr. Lee, explaining calmly with a hint of embarrassment. Officer. Mr. Lee. You've misunderstood. Luna did mention she might have forgotten her ID, and was very anxious. I comforted her, saying, don't worry. Leave it to me. But that was only to calm her nerves. High school students get anxious before exams. I just needed to stabilize her. I turned to Luna, my tone carrying a touch of reprochful concern. Luna. Maybe you misheard or misunderstood. I meant you should calm down. Check your bag or pockets if nothing. You could ask the officers outside the exam hall for a temporary ID. The teacher emphasized this before the exam. I spread my hands, looking genuinely exasperated. How could I possibly have gone home to get it? It takes over an hour by bus both ways. Even if I could fly, I wouldn't make it in time. I told you to seek help from the police first. I myself came here to rest because I felt dizzy and unsafe. This station seemed secure. My explanation was logical, clear, and repeatedly emphasized that I was sensible, thoughtful, having fulfilled my instinct, and misunderstood despite my good intentions. Luna was completely stunned, pointing at me, trembling. You're lying. That's not what you said. You promised me. You're lying. She had nothing left but pale accusations. Utterly flustered, Grace and Gordon went silent. Even with their bias, they could see the sense in my words. There wasn't enough time to go home. And I was right here at the police station, emphasizing trust in the officers. This contradicted their expectation of a malicious sister. Mr. Lee's face dark and completely. He looked at Luna with scrutiny and doubt. He valued both results and character. At this moment, it was clear who seemed more credible. The on-duty officer, who had been listening the whole time, finally spoke seriously. He looked at Luna first. Student, your sister is right. In this situation, the first step should be to seek help from the police. It would have been completely fine. Why didn't you think of that? He then glanced at me. Softening, your handling. Though you didn't take the exam. Was calm and responsible. Seeking help was the right thing. His words hit Luna and her parents like a heavy slap. I lowered my head at the right moment, murmuring just loudly enough for everyone to hear. Full of faux helplessness and fear. I only wanted to calm Luna down. Didn't expect she'd misunderstand and make such a scene. Wasting the officer's time. What if I had forced myself to the exam and fainted? This pinned Luna firmly on the pillar of shame. Ignoring sister's health. Unreasonable. Wasting police resources. For the first time, fear appeared in Luna's eyes. She realized that her carefully planned trap had failed. And instead, she had exposed herself to everyone's gaze. The script had completely reversed. The police station lobby fell into a strange silence. Only Luna's heavy, unwilling breath broke the quiet. And my parents' faces were flushed with embarrassment. The officer's eyes already carried clear disapproval, while Mr. Lee's expression had completely darkened. His gaze toward Luna was no longer disappointment, it was sharp, scrutinizing judgment. No, it's not like that. Luna struggled one last time, clutching Mr. Lee's arm, tears streaming down her face in genuine panic this time. Mr. Lee, please believe me. She did promise to get it. She did it on purpose. She's jealous of me. Luna. Mr. Lee yanked his arm away sharply and interrupted her in a voice colder than ever. Stop lying right now. He pointed to the clock on the wall, his tone harsh and unrelenting. Look at the time. How long has it been since the exam started? Even if Chloe promised you, how could she have possibly returned in time? Tell me. Then he turned to me. I played up my innocence and weakness, leaning slightly against the chair, my face pale partly from acting, partly from the lingering shock of rebirth. Look at your sister. She's unwell. And she came to the police station seeking help and rest. This is the most reasonable action. She even considered your feelings, worrying that it would affect your exam. And you? Mr. Lee's anger grew, his chest heaving. You couldn't find your ID, and instead of seeking help like your sister said, you stubbornly assumed she'd bring it? And when she didn't, you blamed her? You even incited your parents to cause a scene at the police station. Luna, where exactly is your mind? His roar struck like thunder, making Luna tremble. Her face turned pale as paper. Unable to speak another word, her biggest shield, her homeroom teacher's trust, collapsed completely. Grace and Gordon's faces burned. No matter how biased they had been, in the face of the clear logic of the police and teacher, they could not respond. Gordon opened his mouth, intending to scold me out of habit. But a cold glare from the officer shut him up. Parents, the officer said sternly, addressing them directly, the facts are clear. Your youngest daughter neglected her important documents, handled the situation poorly, and even tried to frame her elder sister. You, as parents, came here yelling and disrupting the station, showing a lack of concern and trust for your hard-working elder daughter. How are you qualified as parents? His words struck Gordon and Grace like a whip. Grace stammered, Lee stammered. We were just too worried. Worry is no excuse for causing chaos. The officer snapped. Look at your elder daughter, also a student taking the exam, and well, but calm and responsible. And you? Shouting, threatening, and blaming her. What kind of behavior is this? Gordon's forehead veins bulged, but he couldn't retort. He could only glare at the stunned Luna. I'm sorry, officer, for troubling you. Mr. Lee exhaled deeply and apologized first. Then he turned to me. His gaze complicated, filled with guilt and a hint of fear. Chloe, head in Toffel Ryan session. Teacher, I misjudged you. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Can you still take your exam? He glanced at the clock, over 40 minutes into the Chinese exam. And according to the rules, anyone more than 30 minutes late could not enter. I shook my head weakly, forcing a strong yet regretful smile. It's okay, Mr. Lee. I understand you were worried about Luna. I am still a little dizzy. Even if I rush there now, I can enter the exam hall. It's fine, I have exams in the afternoon too. I'll rest a bit and prepare for them. The more composed and patient I acted, the more Luna and her parents' absurdity and repulsiveness were highlighted. Mr. Lee's guilt deepened further. He opened his mouth, but finally only sighed heavily. Though it wasn't directly his fault, the farce of a student's Chinese exam being ruined and in such an absurd way shook him deeply. The officer's expressions softened, speaking to me in a gentle tone. "Student. Rest well. Don't stress too much. Focus on the afternoon exam." He then shot a cold glance at the Luna family. "You apologize to this student immediately. And then take her home to rest and prepare for the afternoon exam." Gordon and Grace's faces darkened. Apologizing to me was harder than death itself. Under the pressure of the officer and Mr. Lee, Gordon could only squeeze out, "Chloe. Dad was worried." Grace muttered unwillingly. Mom was just too concerned about Luna. As for Luna, she bit her lip, lowering her head, all her body resisting. I didn't need their genuine apologies, that would have been too much. What I wanted was this outcome, the truth revealed, roles reversed, their bias exposed publicly. I shook my head graciously. Voice soft. "It's okay. Mom. Dad. I know you were worried about Luna. She didn't do it on purpose. She was just too nervous." I had once again pinned nervous and not intentional back onto Luna, leaving her on the metaphorical fire. Sure enough, Mr. Lee and the officer looked at Luna with more disapproval. "All right. The matter is clear. Let's all go. Don't disturb others," the officer declared, dismissing them. Mr. Lee rubbed his temples, addressing Luna's parents. "Sir. Madam. Take the kids home first. Luna. Try to adjust for the afternoon exam." There was no hint of expectation for a King Bi prodigy anymore. Luna suddenly looked up, face drained of color. She realized she had lost more than just her Chinese score. Her teacher's trust and years of carefully maintained facade were gone. The farce finally ended. We left the police station in an oppressive, awkward silence. The sunlight was dazzling, yet I felt unprecedented clarity. The wheels of the past life hadn't crushed me. Instead, they had exposed the ugliness to the light. I looked at the dazed Luna, and at her parents' faces, pale and occasionally glancing at her with disdain. From today, this family would never return to the past, and my exams, my future, were just beginning. I touched my pocket admission ticket secure. I would enter the math exam on time. This time, I would write for my life. For the sunlight outside the police station was blindingly white, a stark contrast to the crying and shouting we had passed through earlier. The walk home was deathly silent. Luna, as if her soul had been drained, walked with her head down, tears silently falling. This time, no one comforted her. Gordon's face was dark as iron. He walked ahead silently, occasionally glancing at Luna with undisguised irritation instead of affection. Grace followed, opening her mouth, then shutting it after seeing her husband and her devastated daughter, finally sighing heavily and shooting Luna a complex glare. They might still be biased, but they were more realistic now. One lucky star with a chance at King Bi versus a jinxed star who had caused a huge mess on exam day, possibly failing to enter college. Now the priority was clear. Luna's lucky star or cracked irreparably. Mr. Lee followed at a distance, still scowling, seemingly digesting the absurdity. He said nothing further to Luna's parents, only stopping me at a junction. "Chloe," his tone heavy with subtle apology, "don't let this affect your afternoon exam. Focus and do well." He paused, adding, "If you have any difficulties, come find me." I nodded, forcing a polite, responsible smile. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. I will." He glanced again at the deflated Luna family, shook his head, and left. I knew his opinion of Luna had changed completely, and at least toward me, a fairer concern now existed. Back in the suffocating house, the atmosphere hit absolute rock bottom. Bang! Gordon slammed the keys on the table, making Grace and Luna flinch. Crying. 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 Always crying. He turned to Luna, yelling, "You've embarrassed me today. Humiliated me at the police station. Scolded by the teacher. All because of you. Forgetting your ID? Didn't you think to ask the police? Are you stupid or what? Luna shrank, crying harder. Dad. I didn't do it on purpose. It's my sister. You dare mention your sister. Gordon exploded, grabbing a feather duster and swinging it at her. If you hadn't slandered her, would we have humiliated ourselves like this? Forget King Bee, I forget college. You're a jinx. The feather duster hit haphazardly. Luna screamed and dodged. Grace instinctively moved to stop him but was shoved aside. I watched coldly. Unmoved. Almost amused. Look, this so-called lucky star. Once useless. Instantly became a jinx. I didn't intervene. I calmly walked to the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water. Then took out my math formula booklet. Sitting in a corner of the living room. Quietly studying. My calm focus stood in stark contrast to the chaos around me. Exhausted, Gordon threw the duster. Pointing at Luna. Focus on your afternoon exam. If you cause more trouble, I'll break your legs. Then he slammed the bedroom door. Grace glanced at her crying daughter. Then at me quietly studying. And muttered nothing. Instead making a loud fuss studying the house. Luna slumped on the floor. Hair messy. Red marks on her body. She looked at me not with feigned innocence, but with venomous hatred and disbelief. She didn't understand why things had turned out this way. She should have been comforted. And I should have been blamed. I met her gaze. Closed my math book. And stood. It was time to go to the exam. I grabbed my pencil case and admission ticket in the cramped room. Passing the living room. Grace finally spoke with a trace of irritation. You too. Why didn't you ask more questions? Why did it have to get this bad? I stopped. Looking at her with a calmness that unnerved her. Mom. I'm dizzy and need rest. And I did let her find the police. She just refused to listen and misinterpreted me. Right? Grace was speechless. I ignored her and walked to the door. Behind me. Luna hissed, barely containing her hatred. Chloe. Just wait. I didn't slow down. A cold smile curling my lips. Wait? Of course. I would wait. Wait to see how this false lucky star would completely fall. The afternoon sun was just right. I inhaled deeply, savoring freedom, and strode toward my battlefield. This time, nothing and no one could stop me. The afternoon math exam hall was solemn and tense. I found my seat and sat down, neatly placing my admission ticket and ID card at the corner of the desk. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft glow on the clean answer sheet. My heartbeat was steady. My breathing even completely different from the panic and despair of my previous life. The bell rang across campus. And the invigilators began distributing exam papers and answer sheets. I picked up my paper and quickly scanned the question types. Excellent, all as expected. After living one life over. The formulas and theorems that once seemed complicated now etched themselves clearly in my mind. More importantly, my heart was calm. I was no longer dragged down by family turmoil, nor terrified by fabricated accusations. The tip of my pen brushed across the paper with a soft rustle, as if playing the prelude to my brand new life. I focused entirely, immersing myself in the logical world of solving problems, forgetting the time and any chaos happening outside, even temporarily forgetting hatred. In this moment, it was just me and my exam. Every multiple choice question, every fill in the blank, I handled carefully yet quickly. When it came to the longer questions, my thinking flowed smoothly, steps clear and precise. This sensation was unprecedented, as if my brain had been thoroughly cleansed, becoming sharp and efficient. Minute by minute, I worked. And I even finished all the questions 15 minutes early. After checking twice to ensure no mistakes, I set my pen down and exhaled gently. I looked up, glancing around. Other students were still writing furiously, brows furrowed. I, however, felt a serene calm, even a quiet sense of satisfaction. When the bell signaled the end of the exam, I followed the crowd out. The sunlight remained bright and warm. As soon as I stepped out of the exam gate, I spotted the 3 members of the Luna family waiting. The atmosphere was even more strange than at noon. Luna stood with eyes swollen like walnuts. Face pale. Trembling slightly, she clearly hadn't fared well in the afternoon exam. Gordon stood with his hands on his hips. His face dark as a pot bottom. Not even glancing at Luna. Grace, on the other hand, looked anxious. Seemingly wanting to say something but holding back. Their eyes all fell on me as I emerged. Gordon spoke stiffly, head inconstantly. With an awkward, probing tone, how was the exam? His question was for me. Yet his gaze wandered, as if he felt uncomfortable asking. Grace also looked at me. Her eyes a mixture of residual anger. A faint perhaps unnoticed hope. And mostly confusion. I answered calmly, it went fine. I finished all the questions. Gordon and Grace froze for a moment. Clearly not expecting such a confident reply. In their minds, I had always been the mediocre, silent, unremarkable eldest daughter. Luna snapped her head up, her bloodshot eyes fixed on me. Jealousy and resentment nearly spilling over. She shouted sharply, of course you finished. You didn't lose an entire morning like some people. What are you so proud of? Her sharp voice drew the attention of several nearby students and parents who had just left the exam hall. Shut your mouth. Gordon turned suddenly, lowering his voice and roaring. Veins bulging in his forehead. Not ashamed enough yet? Grace quickly tugged at Luna. Luna, say less. I looked at Luna's out-of-control display with no emotion. Even a hint of pity. She still didn't understand the one who ruined her wasn't me, but her own vanity, scheming, and the blind indulgence of our parents. I ignored her shouting and said only to Gordon and Grace, Dad, Mom, I'm heading back. I'm a little tired. This time, they didn't ignore me or demand I wait for Luna. Gordon muttered a vacuum, and Grace nodded instinctively. I turned to leave, feeling 3 pairs of eyes following me, one full of anger and resentment, 2 full of confusion and helplessness. I knew that from today. My position in this family was subtly and irreversibly changing. Not because I suddenly had power, but because the lighthouse they had relied on to maintain favoritism, Luna is the golden child, had crumbled, exposing the ruins beneath. On the way home, for the first time, the path didn't feel so long or oppressive. At dinner that night, the atmosphere sank to near freezing. The food was simple, even slightly cold. Clearly Grace hadn't felt like cooking properly. Gordon buried his head in his drink, glass after glass. Grace ate without appetite, occasionally glancing at Luna, who poked at her rice with tears falling into her bowl, and then secretly at me, calmly eating. Stop crying and eat. Gordon finally lost patience with the low-energy scene, slamming his glass down. After such an awful exam. And you still have the face to cry. Luna shuddered, her sobs catching in her throat, leaving only restrained sniffles. Gordon, say less. Luna. Grace instinctively tried to defend her. Her what? Gordon cut her off sharply, spewing alcohol breath. She's embarrassed me in front of everyone. Expect her to glorify the family? Bah. I say she's a little disaster. If I'd known. Back then. He trailed off, but his disdain and disgust were obvious. Luna turned ghostly pale, staring at her father in disbelief, as if she had heard the worst words in the world. I quietly finished the last bite of my meal, set down my chopsticks, and said calmly, Dad, Mom, I'm done. I'll read for a bit. I have exams tomorrow. Then I left the table without another glance. Behind me were Gordon's increasingly frustrated curses, Grace's powerless protests, and Luna's utterly broken, despairing sobs. Back in my room, I closed the door, isolating most of the outside noise. I sat at my desk, taking out my comprehensive subject materials. But I didn't dive in immediately. I knew the war was just beginning. Luna wouldn't give up, and my parents' attitudes were still wavering. But I wasn't afraid. From the moment I opened my eyes in the police station lobby, I had already taken back control of my life. Tomorrow, the day after, I would continue to take exams steadily. With my pen, I would write the first solid annotation for the future I had been reborn into. 6. The exams on the 2nd and 3rd days passed without incident. I still arrived early at the exam center, calm and focused. I answered every question to the best of my ability, even exceeding expectations in some subjects. The knowledge felt etched into my mind after rebirth, clear and vivid. When I submitted my papers, I felt fulfilled and at peace. Outside the exam center, there was no sign of the Luna family waiting excitedly for their lucky star. On the second day, only Gordon came. His face was still sour. When he saw me leave, he asked stiffly, "Finished?" After I confirmed, he said nothing more, even averting his gaze. Luna and Grace didn't appear. On the third day, only Grace came, her eyes swollen and red from crying and arguing over the past 2 days. She seemed to want to ask how the exam went, but all she did was hand me a bottle of water and say in a tired, numb tone, "Go home after finishing." Luna and Gordon did not come. I knew the low-pressure storm at home was probably even more severe than I imagined. Luna's lucky star persona had collapsed, and with it, the twisted foundation of that family. The parents' disappointment, anger, having fulfilled my obsession, and mutual blame were enough to make the household chaotic. And I was the calmest presence in the eye of that storm. When the bell rang for the final exam, I walked out with the surging crowd. The air was thick with emotions: liberation, exhilaration, confusion, uncertainty. Students screamed, tore up review materials, threw them into the air, or hugged their parents and cried. I walked through the chaos calmly, though my emotions were equally intense, quietly contained. It was the certainty of breaking free from shackles and stepping toward a new life. "Chloe," a voice called. I turned. It was Mr. Lee, looking tired but with eyes clearer than on exam day. "Mr. Lee, how was the exam?" He came closer, speaking kindly and with genuine concern. "Felt okay," I answered conservatively. He nodded and sighed. "About that day. I apologize again. I was too hasty, didn't investigate properly, and..." He paused, then changed the subject. "More serious now. Focus on estimating your scores and preparing your college applications. With your results, as long as you perform normally, heading till filled by session, you'll clear the top-tier cutoff. You even have a chance at some top universities. Don't let family matters affect your choices." He seemed subtly worried my parents might interfere with my application decisions. I felt a little warmth in my chest and nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. I will." "Good. If you have any questions, call me anytime," he encouraged me before turning to assist other students. Watching him leave, I realized that justice and care still existed in this world. Back home, the atmosphere was predictably icy. Luna's room was closed, silent inside. Gordon wasn't home, probably out drinking again. Grace mechanically picked vegetables in the kitchen, her eyes vacant. Seeing me return, she barely lifted her eyelids and asked weakly, "Finished?" I set down my pencil case, heading for my room. "Chloe," Grace called hesitantly. How did you really do?" I stopped and looked at her. In her eyes was a complex yearning, a desperate attempt to grasp something in despair. The contrast between her elder daughter potentially performing well and her younger daughter's total failure left her confused and helpless. I didn't exaggerate or downplay, simply stated calmly. "Performed normally. Should be above the top-tier cutoff." A faint glimmer flashed in Grace's eyes but quickly dimmed. She lowered her head, muttering, Oh, that's good, Dad. That's good, Dad." Repeating it, unsure if she was speaking to me or consoling herself. I knew that no matter how well I did, it would be hard to immediately replace the void left by Luna's collapsed lucky star status. But this small piece of good news was like a stone dropped into still water; it would eventually ripple. I returned to my room and closed the door. Silence soon returned. I didn't waste time. I immediately searched for last year's exam cutoff scores and university handbooks, carefully estimating my scores and planning applications. This time, my future would be firmly in my hands. Every application I submitted would point toward leading this city's house behind. A few days later, the exam answers were released. I locked myself in my room, rigorously estimating my score against the official answers. The results surprised even me, full 60 points higher than expected. Not only comfortably above the top-tier cutoff, but close to the previous year's admission scores for several elite 985 universities. The advantage of rebirth, calm mindset, and undistracted focus had brought a qualitative leap. I took a deep breath, suppressing my excitement, carefully recording estimated scores and my carefully selected universities. From the living room came loud arguing. "I don't care. I'll retake it. Next year I'll get in," screamed Luna. "Retake? Where am I going to get money for that? You've already embarrassed me." "Retake?" roared Gordon, shaking the door. "Luna, let's not retake. Even a vocational college is fine," Grace pleaded with tears. "Vocational college? I won't. It's all Chloe. She ruined me. If not for her." Slap. A sharp smack cut her off. Then Gordon screamed in rage. "Dare mention her again. I'll beat you to death. Can't get in yourself and blame others." Jinx. The screams, curses, head and wind sashes, and crashing sounds formed a chaotic symphony. I sat expressionless at my desk, folding my completed application forms and putting them away. The storm outside no longer concerned me. My path was the stars and the sea. They, meanwhile, belonged to the mud of mutual hatred and torment. This was the first answer I submitted after returning from rebirth. 7. The time for submitting college applications arrived. The low-pressure tension at home continued, but the dynamics had subtly shifted. Gordon no longer shouted at the slightest provocation. Instead, he cast dark, assessing glances at me and Luna. Grace became more cautious, especially when speaking to me, often adding a hint of obsequious testing. Luna had completely wilted, like a frostbitten eggplant, locking herself in her room most of the time. When she came out, her gaze was empty and full of resentment. She no longer mentioned retaking the exams. Gordon had ended that idea with a severe beating and a say it again and draw out warning. She seemed resigned or perhaps plotting. That morning, I took out my carefully considered application forms, ready to confirm and submit them to the homeroom teacher. Seeing this, Grace hurried over, smiling. "Chloe, head into wind session. It's time to submit applications. Let Mom see which great schools you chose." Her tone was unusually eager. Gordon also put down his newspaper, glancing over. I didn't flinch, handing over the forms. All the universities were reputable institutions far from home, with majors that were either in demand or solid foundational disciplines. Grace stared at the unfamiliar, prestigious names, eyes slightly glazed, muttering, "All so far away." Gordon scanned them, frowning, and in his usual picky tone said, "Why so far? It's inconvenient for a girl to go so far. Aren't there good universities in the province? Nearby normal colleges or finance schools work too. You can be arranged a job after graduation." Even now, his first thought was control and leveraging his weak connections, not what was best for me. Before I could respond, Grace tugged his arm, speaking with an odd urgency. "Hey, heading so mid session. The child did well. She should see the world. Chloe has potential, it makes us look good too, right?" She then looked at me with an earnest smile. "Chloe, heading right sorry. Don't listen to your father. Go wherever you want. Mom supports you." I smirked inwardly. She wasn't really supporting me. Finally realized the youngest daughter couldn't be relied on. I, the long-ignored eldest, had suddenly become her new hope and pride. She couldn't wait to grasp this suddenly shiny straw. Gordon, taken aback by Grace's uncharacteristic contradiction, glanced at her and then at the rankings and prestige of the universities on my forms. Realizing something, he snorted and didn't oppose further, muttering, "Do as you like. Don't come back crying if you fail out there." I didn't respond and took back my forms. At that moment, Luna's door silently cracked open. Her dark eyes stared fixedly through the gap at us, and at my application forms, a gaze that reminded me of a venomous snake lying in wait. I ignored her and walked out with the forms. At school, Teacher Lee carefully reviewed my university application choices and nodded with satisfaction. The ranking is reasonable. All good schools and programs. Matching your expected scores. Chloe, having facile read sorry. I'm really happy for you. Submit it just like this, your chances are very high. He paused and lowered his voice. Your family didn't give you any more trouble, right? No. Thank you for your concern. Teacher, I said with a smile. After successfully submitting my choices, the last weight in my heart finally lifted. Back home, everything seemed normal. Luna's bedroom door remained firmly shut. That night, when I went to take a shower, I made a careless mistake. I left the draft of my university application with the final schools and program codes on the old table in the living room. After I finished showering, I noticed the paper was gone. My heart sank, and my gaze immediately fell on Luna's bedroom door. The light peeking from under the door indicated she was still awake. Grace was on the balcony folding clothes, and Gordon was watching TV. Mom, did you see that paper full of writing on my desk? I asked casually. Huh? I didn't notice. Maybe it got thrown away as trash? Grace replied carelessly. Gordon didn't even lift an eyelid. I went to the trash can and looked inside. Nothing. My heart turned cold. I was almost certain who had taken it. What did she intend to do? Tear it up? Destroy it? Such a childish act would only enrage me. It couldn't change anything. The application had already been submitted online. I walked to Luna's door and knocked directly. No response from inside. Luna, did you take the draft I left in the living room? I asked coldly. Inside came the rustle of movement. Then Luna's sleepy, impatient voice, what draft? I'm sleeping. Stop bothering me. Terrible acting. I stood at the door in silence for a few seconds. I knew that arguing wouldn't get her to admit it, but I couldn't let it slide. I turned around and, without any warning, walked directly to the old landline phone in the corner of the living room and pressed 3 digits without hesitation. Hello? 110? I want to report a case. My voice was clear and calm, ringing like thunder in the silent living room. What are you doing? Gordon jumped up from the sofa. Stunned. Grace ran in from the balcony. Frightened. Dropping the clothes she was holding. Luna's bedroom door flung open. She was in her pajamas. And there was no trace of sleep on her face, only complete shock and panic. Are you crazy? She shouted. I ignored them and continued speaking to the phone. Yes, officer. An important document has gone missing in my home. It concerns my college admission and future prospects. I suspect a family member took it without permission and intends to destroy or alter it. The address is... Chloe. Stop this nonsense. Gordon rushed over to grab the phone. His face dark as iron. I sidestepped him and quickly finished giving the address before hanging up. The house fell into a deathly silence. Grace trembled all over. Call. The police. Chloe. Really necessary? It's probably just a scrap of paper. Luna turned pale. Her fingers gripping the door frame tightly. Knuckles white. I looked at them, finally resting my gaze on Luna. My voice was calm and terrifying. Yes. It's necessary. That is my future. Whoever touches it, I will fight to protect it. Good thing the police came. Isn't there a surveillance camera in the living room? Check it. And everything will be clear. I pointed to the dusty old anti-theft camera in the corner of the living room. The camera was actually broken, but I was betting on them, especially guilty Luna being too scared to risk it. Sure enough, when Luna heard the word surveillance, her pupils contracted sharply, and the last bit of color drained from her face. Within 10 minutes, the police arrived again, the same 2 officers from the previous visit. They looked at my home and clearly recognized it. Their expressions subtly nuanced. What happened? Who reported this? Before Gordon or Grace could speak, I stepped forward and said clearly, Officer. It's me. A draft of my college application went missing in the living room. It contains private and important application information. I suspect someone took it without permission and intended improper use. I request a formal investigation. Gordon and Grace turned pale. lips trembling, unable to utter a word. They had never experienced anything so embarrassing in their lives. The officers frowned and looked at Luna and her parents, who clearly looked guilty. At that moment, Luna suddenly ran back to her room and emerged with the crumpled draft, shoving it into my hands, voice trembling with tears and fear. Here's your stupid paper. I just picked it up to look. Did you really need to call the police? You scared me to death. Her mental defenses had completely collapsed under the police visit and the surveillance threat. I took the paper, looking at the officers calmly. Officer, the item has been found. But taking someone else's important document without permission did happen. I need an apology and a guarantee. The officers nodded seriously, looking at Luna and her parents. Again with your family? Last time it was false accusations. Now taking someone else's stuff? How do you parents educate your child? College entrance is important. How can you mess around like this? Gordon and Grace were scolded so badly they couldn't even lift their heads, repeatedly apologizing. The officers warned Luna sternly before leaving. When the door closed, Gordon raised his hand as if to hit someone. But seeing my expressionless face, his hand finally fell, replaced by an exhausted, resigned sigh. The last bit of fake peace in this house had been shattered by my own hand. I didn't care. I held the recovered draft, not looking at them once, and turned back to my room. I knew that from now on, no one in this house would dare touch my things or my future again. My battlefield was finally cleared. 8 after the police left, the air in the house seemed to freeze, heavy enough to suffocate. Gordon didn't explode like usual. He just looked at me with an extremely complex expression: residual anger, disbelief, deep fatigue, and even a hint of barely perceptible fear. He said nothing, slumped back onto the sofa, and lit a cigarette. The smoke swirled, his hunched back looking more bowed than ever. Grace seemed to lose her backbone. She glanced at the tightly closed door of Luna's room, then at my room, panicked and helpless. Finally moving mechanically to pick up the clothes on the floor. Inside Luna's room, there was deathly silence, no sniffles. Nothing. Extreme fear had been replaced, perhaps, by even deeper resentment and despair. I calmly returned to my room and locked the door. Everything outside was no longer my concern. I knew that after this battle, I had drawn an invisible line in this house. They might still be biased and confused, but at least they would no longer cross boundaries lightly. The following days passed in a strange calm. Gordon and Grace stopped bossing me around, even speaking cautiously. Meals were prepared normally, though still not warm-hearted, at least no longer scraps. Grace even occasionally asked, "Do you have enough money?" Though in a dry tone. Luna became invisible in the household. She barely left her room, eating only after everyone else had finished. She rapidly lost weight, her face pale, eyes hollow. Occasionally, when she met my gaze, the look was no longer pure hatred but a chilling, numb resignation. I knew she hadn't given up. She had buried all her venom deeper. I enjoyed the peace. Most of my time was spent planning my future, occasionally reading. I had already looked into student loans and work-study programs, quietly packing my essential documents and a few personal belongings, waiting only for the acceptance letters. Day by day, the college entrance exam results were released. I borrowed a classmate's computer early and waited in front of the screen. When I entered my admission ticket number, my heart couldn't help but race. The page refreshed: total score, 596. A score far above the first-tier cutoff, giving me complete freedom to choose from all the schools I had applied to. Even a few points higher than I had anticipated, though I had expected it. The joy and relief still overwhelmed me instantly. I covered my mouth, eyes slightly moist. This time, I had truly grasped my destiny with my own hands. Almost immediately, my phone rang. It was Teacher Lee, his voice filled with excitement. "Chloe. Amazing. 596 points. 12th in the school. Even though you didn't take the Chinese test because of your health and scored 0, it's still excellent. If not for that, your score would have been even higher. I knew you could do it. The universities you applied to are all secure. Congratulations. Thank you, teacher. My voice choked slightly. After hanging up, sounds came from the living room. Grace and Gordon were clearly checking their phones for scores. Their shocked exclamations and disbelief ringing through the house. Oh, how much? 596? Chloe scored 596? Grace's voice was shrill, almost breaking. Really? Let me see. Gordon's voice was full of shock. Soon, let out a low sigh. There were loud knocks on my door. Grace's voice rang out, excited and flattering like never before. Chloe. Chloe. You scored 596. Oh my God. Mom must be seeing things wrong. Open the door so I can see. I opened the door calmly. Outside, Grace and Gordon pressed close together, their faces full of ecstasy and a near reverent awe, as if seeing their daughter for the first time. Good. 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 Gordon repeated excitedly, rubbing his hands, wanting to pat my shoulder. But my steady gaze made him withdraw awkwardly. I told you my daughter has potential. Better than that. Grace cried tears of joy, but mid-sentence suddenly realized something, stopping abruptly and awkwardly glancing at Luna's tightly closed door. That door now stood like a silent tombstone, cutting off all noise and joy. The contrast was stark. One daughter scored 596, shining brilliantly. The other, due to a zero in Chinese, failed miserably overall, not even reaching the lowest vocational cutoff. Their joy therefore swelled, but it was twisted. Soon, let out a low sigh. Relatives and friends began calling to congratulate. Grace and Gordon answered, their voices booming with pride, as if wanting the whole world to know how high their eldest daughter scored and which top university she would attend. The pride and boasting practically spilled out of the phone. They seemed to have completely forgotten that not long ago, they had cheered for the other daughter's dream of Tingshu at Peking University while mocking me. The reality of human nature was on full display. Amid the fake praise and noisy celebration, I remained calm. A few days later, the beautiful admission letter arrived. As expected, from a top-tier 985 university in the South, my first choice application. As I signed for the delivery, Grace and Gordon hovered nearby, treating the letter like a sacred relic, repeatedly touching the cover, smiles blooming on their faces. Good. 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 This university is excellent. Just the name sounds impressive. Gordon grinned. Mom will get the money right away. Tuition and living expenses. I'll cover it all. Grace eagerly offered, trying to make up for past neglect. No need. Mom, I said lightly, refusing. I've applied for a student loan. It covers tuition and living expenses. Their smiles froze instantly. I alone? That won't do. What would people think? We're not short on money. Gordon immediately objected, worried about face. Yeah. Chloe. The family will pay. How can you use a loan? Grace chimed in anxiously. I looked at them calmly but firmly. I can cover it myself. The family's money should be saved for someone who needs it more. My words pierced the bubble of their false enthusiasm like a cold needle. They were speechless, their faces fluctuating from pale to flushed. They understood the meaning behind my words, and that I was determined to draw a clear boundary. In the end, they did not insist. Just watching me store the admission letter, a symbol of independence and distance with complicated expressions. That night, I heard Grace speaking in a lowered, excited, and complaining tone on the phone. Yes. She got in. GUOK University. Sigh. The child is so stubborn. Insisted on applying for a loan herself. Didn't want to use our money. Really. Grown up. No longer under mom's control. I leaned against the doorframe, silently smiling. Whether I was under her control was long since no longer her decision. The day to leave school drew near. I began packing formally. My belongings were few. One suitcase held almost everything I owned. The night before departure, the house was unusually quiet. During dinner, Luna surprisingly came out. She ate silently, almost burying her head in the bowl. Gordon and Grace tried to live in the mood, joking and laughing, but it felt stiff and awkward. After dinner, I returned to my room for a final check. A gentle knock sounded on my door. I opened it. Luna stood outside. She looked up at me and, for the first time in months, spoke clearly. Her voice was hoarse and calm, yet carried the ice-cold venom of a snake. "Chloe, do you think you've won? No matter how high you fly, it won't change the fact that you're inherently lowly and unloved. We'll see about that." After saying this, she didn't wait for my reply, turned, and closed her door behind her. I stood at the door, watching her vanish, feeling nothing. The curses of the loser were, to me, had a no sigh, nothing more than wind in my ears. The next morning, at first light, I left without anyone seeing me off. Dragging my suitcase, I quietly opened the front door. The living room was empty. They hadn't gotten up, perhaps avoiding the scene, or unsure how to face it. Fine. I took one last look at this place that held so many painful, oppressive memories, and closed the door firmly and decisively. The pale dawn brought a crisp air that filled my lungs with freedom. I hailed a taxi to the train station. Outside the window, the city gradually awoke. Traffic flowed. People surged. My new life had begun. This time, I lived only for myself. College life was completely different from that suffocating home. Here, it was free, open, and full of possibilities. I absorbed knowledge voraciously, joined clubs, and made friends from all over the country. Student loans and part-time work made me financially independent. Busy as I was, I felt fulfilled and determined. I rarely contacted home, and they seemed to tacitly withdraw from my life. Occasionally, Grace would call, her tone cautious, asking if I had enough money, if I was tired from studying, followed by long silences and awkward pauses. I usually replied briefly, "Enough. Not tired. It's fine," and said no more. Gordon never called, and Luna was completely silent. That home felt like a vague, distant nightmare from my previous life. I thought I would continue calmly like this until I completely severed the past. However, one ordinary afternoon in the first semester of my sophomore year, I received a call from Grace. This time, her voice was hoarse, as if after crying, and completely frantic. Chloe, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. What do we do? Your dad, he's been taken away." My pen paused briefly over my notebook, then continued writing the last formula. I spoke calmly, without a ripple. "What happened? Tell me slowly." "It's Luna. That wretched Luna." Grace sobbed incoherently over the phone. She wept too. Somehow owes a huge amount outside. High interest loans. Those vicious people came to our house. Dad lost it and fought back. I don't know who called the police. They came and took Dad along with them. They said it was a fight, and maybe even involves illegal loans. Woo. Chloe, having fulfilled my obsession. What should I do? I don't know anyone. I listened quietly, completely unmoved, even a bit inclined to smirk. Of course, Luna could never quietly submit. That twisted character, when repressed, would only explode in even more destructive ways. I hadn't expected she would drag Gordon down with her. "Mom is outside the station. They won't let me in." Chloe, having fulfilled my obsession. "You know people. Can you leave too? Think of a way. Find your teachers? Classmates? Dad can't be locked up." Grace's voice was filled with desperate dependence. As if forgetting how she once treated the daughter, she now begged for help. I closed my notebook and walked to the window, looking down at the bustling, vibrant campus. Still calm, Mom, and still in school. I don't know anyone who can interfere with the law, since the police are involved. We follow the legal process. Hire a lawyer if needed. Cooperate with the investigation if needed. A lawyer? Lawyers cost so much. Where would we get the money? That jinxed girl spent everything. Grace screamed. "Chloe, do you have money? Send some to help Mom. If Dad gets sentenced, our family is finished." See, having fulfilled my obsession. It always comes back to money. Mom, My money is only enough for my tuition and living expenses. Nothing extra. I rejected firmly. Besides, the most important thing right now is to figure out how much Luna owes and to whom. Not how to use money to save anyone. My words were cold to the point of cruelty. Like a bucket of ice water. Extinguishing Grace's last hope. She froze on the other end. Seemingly not expecting my coldness. Her crying turned to wailing and accusations. Chloe. How can you be so heartless? He's your dad. Even if he wronged you before. You can't just let him die. How can you be so cruel? I listened quietly. Waiting until her voice softened. Then spoke slowly. Mom. I'm not cruel. I'm powerless. And the person responsible for this situation is not me. You should hold the one really responsible accountable. Silence followed. Only suppressed sobs remaining. I knew she couldn't find Luna. That so-called lucky star who had once been exalted to the heavens had probably disappeared during the chaos of the loan sharks and police raid, or perhaps she had deliberately brought the disaster upon herself. I have class now. I'll hang up. Anything else? Wait for the authorities to notify you. I said. And without waiting for a reply, I ended the call. Putting down the phone. My emotions remained completely unaffected. There was even a strange sense of calm. As if a premonition had been confirmed. Luna's backlash, though fierce, was no longer aimed directly at me. She had chosen a more thorough, destructive way to take revenge on the family that had once worshipped her and ultimately discarded her like trash. And that fire would no longer reach me. I took a deep breath, pushed the matter to the back of my mind, picked up my books, and headed to class. My path lay ahead. Not in the ruins behind me that were always destined to burn to ashes. A few days later, Grace called intermittently, crying about Gordon being detained, possibly facing a prison sentence, and the loan sharks relentlessly harassing them, threatening to seize the house. Her voice grew more and more desperate with each call. I listened, occasionally offering advice like report to the police or contact the local office, utterly impractical, but correct, and then hung up, citing the need to study. Gradually, her calls became less frequent. A month later, I received a call from a distant relative I hardly ever heard from, my little, and her tone filled with pity and complexity. Chloe. You've heard about your family, right? Ah, such misfortune. Your mother. She couldn't handle the stress. A few days ago, she suddenly collapsed. They took her to the hospital and said it was a brain hemorrhage. She let out a low sigh. She didn't make it. She passed away yesterday. As for your father, the case is almost judged. If it's less than 3 to 5 years, he probably won't get out. And that child, Luna. There's been no news. Don't know if she's alive or dead. That house seems to be targeted by the loan sharks too. Probably can't be saved. Chloe, you're on your own now. Take good care of yourself. Oh, what a mess this all is. I held the phone, listening to my aunt's sighs in silence for a long time. Finally, cut in fulfilled layer. I whispered. Thank you for telling me. Aunt. I understand. After hanging up, I walked to the balcony of my dorm. Outside, the sun shone brightly, and the distant laughter of classmates drifted faintly through the air. I gazed into the distance. There was no sadness. No satisfaction, only a vast, settled calm. The chains and quagmire called home had finally disintegrated completely in Luna's insane self-destructs. All the love, hatred, grudges, favoritism, and scheming, they all vanished with the wind at this moment. I turned back to my desk, where tomorrow's class schedule and club activities lay open. My future clean, pure, and entirely my own belonged solely to me. The end. In my past life, my husband, Commander Julian, ignored my pain during childbirth and didn't come to see me because of his first love. I barely survived childbirth and suffered from lingering health issues. But he despised me even more. Later, when I was bedridden, he brought his first love to my bedside and infuriated me to death. After being reborn, I rejected the commander's marriage proposal. Aurora, will you marry me? I'll make you happy. Julian took out a large gold ring and stood there proposing to me. My head was dizzy. Hadn't I been killed by their cruelty? By him and his mistress? Unexpectedly, I was reborn and even gained a system. This time, I would never waste my life on ungrateful people again. Marry him. Marry him. A crowd clapped and cheered. I disagree. The woman in your heart isn't me. I pushed him away and quickly turned to run. Commander. Why did Aurora reject you? She must be having pre-wedding jitters. Too excited, said Julian's subordinate. Bob. Julian's head was also buzzing. He thought I must be overjoyed. It's fine. She loves me so much. She must be eager to marry me. If it weren't for, I wouldn't have proposed. He had always loved a first love named Leela, who came from a poor family and was a singer in the cultural troupe. Beautiful and hardworking. She was the kind of tenacious little grass girl that princes admired. I, however, had a proud personality and only clung to those I loved. Plus, having fulfilled my ancestry, my mother was a general, so he had courted me for that connection. After marriage, my mother died in the line of duty. Once he rose to power, he began to loathe me. Without my mother's protection, I wept every day. Meanwhile, the heartless man fawned over Leela, buying her a villa, jewels, and keeping her as his mistress. I, meanwhile, took care of his family, growing increasingly haggard, until I was literally killed by their cruelty. My fate had been so tragic. This time, I refused to be a delicate flower in a greenhouse. I would be as capable as my mother. So I enrolled in a research class, determined to use my strengths to serve the country. No matter how accomplished one's family is, they can't be relied on forever. It's better to depend on oneself and have the ability to protect oneself. Only then would my mother, watching from heaven, not feel sad. When I got home, I cried as I looked at the photos of my mother and me. Though she was rarely home, her love for me never diminished. She often sent me gifts and specialties from afar. I was proud of her. She was a heroine, the pride of our family, and an idol to many. It's not easy for a woman to achieve success. Yet society still expects women to stay home and serve their in-laws. I went to the study to read, refusing to wallow in love any longer. Disgusting men would only hinder my future. Women must strive for self-reliance. No one can be trusted or relied on completely. Anyone can betray or leave you. With so many uncertainties in life, never gamble on someone's sincerity. It will only lead to complete failure and loss. In my past life, I loved Julian so deeply, but he betrayed me, causing me such severe trauma that I died coughing up blood. This time, I would improve myself and never let anyone laugh at me again. When I stopped seeking Julian out, he panicked and came to my doorstep. We lived in the same compound, so avoiding him was hard. Aurora, come out. I want to take you to dinner at a Western restaurant. I poured a basin of water over him, and he immediately shuddered. Aurora, why are you ignoring me? At this point, he wasn't yet a commander but a deputy regiment leader. In my past life, I endured hardships with him and helped him rise to power. But the first thing he did after achieving success was bring his first love home, to abuse me and our child. He treated Leela's son like a treasure while beating our son like an animal. Julian, that heinous monster, even after my death, wanted to continue benefiting from my good luck. He hired a corrupt master to trap my soul in a spell, preventing me from being reincarnated or suing him in the afterlife. When men are cruel, they're worse than venomous snakes. After my death, my son feared offending his father and sought personal gain. So he never paid respects to me and instead flattered his stepmother. I had loved my son and raised him painstakingly, only for him to become as heartless as his father. Alas, having fulfilled my ancestor, women should never fall in love with Phoenix men who rise from poverty but exploit others or support men's careers. Their goal is to leech off others, even hoping their wives die to further their own ambitions. Fortunately, I was reborn, and it was still not too late. Life is tough, but there's no retreat. To make the future easier, I must work 100 times harder. In my past life, I only knew to date him and devoted myself to him. Look where that got me. I lost my life. Loving the wrong person is 1,000 times worse than staying single. I ignored the scumbag and focused on studying, determined to fill my mind with knowledge. From now on, I would walk this path alone and not make the same mistakes again. Julian was relentless, seeking me out whenever he had time. Aurora, come out and play. I miss you so much. Everyone praised him for being infatuated, handsome, and kind to me. But I knew that men are masters of disguise, stopping at nothing to achieve their goals. If I weren't the general's daughter, he would never have bothered to flatter me. Everything he did was for career advancement. I couldn't understand why men who don't love a woman can pretend to be deeply affectionate. Why do they use women to achieve their goals when they lack the ability themselves? Men have been leeching off mothers, grandmothers, sisters, daughters, granddaughters, and granddaughters-in-law since childhood. No wonder they continue to exploit other women as adults. When I had questions I couldn't solve, I went to see my mentor and met a handsome man writing with a fountain pen. He was good-looking, and his handwriting was beautiful. Hello. Is drive. Can in? Hello. My aunt is out. Please have a seat. The boy said, pouring me tea. His eyes were beautiful and bright. I learned that Winston was a transfer student temporarily living with his aunt. As I frowned over my books, he offered, if you have questions, I can help. Thanks. Could you explain this problem? Winston was not only handsome but brilliant, explaining the problem clearly at once. He excelled in studies. His father had died a hero, so he had come to live with his aunt. He was gentle, handsome, and polite. I had a good impression of him. When the mentor returned, we worked on the research topic together. At dusk, Winston and I went horseback riding. My horse, White Sugar, was startled by a charging stray dog. He immediately dismounted and soothed the horse. As the horse calmed, he held out his hand. I took it to dismount, and our eyes met with an ambiguous spark. Let her go. Who are you? How dare you touch my fiancée? Julian ran over, consumed by jealousy. He tried to help me, but I slapped him. You. He glared angrily. Why did you hit me? Don't ruin my reputation. You're not worthy of being my fiancé. How dare this trash think I'd still be obsessed with him? Julian covered his face, utterly confused by my firm attitude. It's all his fault for bewitching you. Is he why you won't marry me? He shouted, pointing at Winston. I don't like you, and I won't accept it to timing trash like you. Your incompetence is your own problem, not others. No man can change my mind. I didn't believe women had to marry or rely on men. In this world, no one is trustworthy or reliable except oneself. No matter how handsome a man seems, his core is filthy and rotten. Julian looked heartbroken, gazing at me with supposed affection. Aurora, I believe no man loves you more than I do. Tell me what I did wrong, and I'll change. Please don't abandon me. Okay? There were tears in his eyes. I'd never seen him cry so bitterly. But I felt no softness. If there's no love, there's no need to hurt each other. He was truly afraid of losing me as a stepping stone. I flung my watch into the river. Jump into the water and retrieve my watch. And I'll reluctantly be friends with you, just ordinary friends. If you can't, leave me alone. Julian stared at me in disbelief. Gone was the way I used to fawn over him. As I turned to leave, I heard a loud splash. He jumped into the river, which was deep and icy cold even in summer, with annual drownings. Locals said water ghosts sought human substitutes. Winston looked worried. Is he okay? This river is eerie. At night, people had heard miserable women's cries, said to be from a bride and her escort who drowned on her wedding day, leading to annual tragedies. He asked for it. If he can't find the watch, he'll climb out, I said. I didn't believe that selfish, heartless man would risk his life for a watch. Selfish people cherish their lives too much. I went home calmly and ate a drumstick rice bowl. With a maid at home, I saved time for studying. My mother called to say, I love you. I love you too, Mom. Please take care and stay safe. I cried, knowing I couldn't change her fate but understanding she'd never regret dying for her country. I loved her and respected her choices. My dear, Mom will always love you. No matter where I am, I'll miss you and love you. I feel guilty for bringing you into this world to suffer because I can't be with you every day. My mother was strong and visionary. When she discovered my biological father had cheated, she not only confronted the mistress but also beat the scumbag and decisively filed for divorce. In those days, divorce was rare. Many women feared judgment and had nowhere to go, as rural families refused to allocate land or money to women. My mother had risen to become a general through her own efforts, and even sponsored poor girls' education, loving her country and people deeply. Tears filled my eyes as I said, "No, I'm proud to have you as my mother. Your spirit and love have always supported me. I've never regretted being your daughter." In this world, not all girls are loved by their mothers as I am. Most women are brainwashed into valuing sons over daughters for personal gain. My mother is different. She has only me, her only daughter, and she doesn't believe our family line is broken without a son. After all, I even took her last name. Women who rely on themselves are all great. I know exactly the kind of person I want to be. And I will learn from my mother's spirit, as well as the spirit of countless unsung heroes. I will also strive to excel in my studies and serve my country in the future. Most people love themselves above all else. But those of us who seek something higher also want to give everything for the people. The pursuit of spiritual and soulful sanctity is an indescribable joy. One night, I heard voices in the courtyard. I heard Julian jumped into the river for Aurora. He's also running a high fever. What a lovesick man. If I met such a man, I'd die for him. Yeah. Aurora doesn't know how lucky she is. I threw open the window and shouted, "Then go die? Do you want this blessing?" They rolled their eyes and scurried away immediately. These people are utterly boring. Now I just want to learn more knowledge. I studied medicine, did problems every day, and practiced relentlessly. I was always busy. Winston would wipe the sweat from my brow, his smile handsome and bright. We were fellow disciples, spending more time together. Even though Julian was sick, I didn't go to see him. When your heart dies, you no longer feel attached or drawn to trash. I'm so grateful I'm no longer the girl who cried over him. Julian came over pale-faced, wrapped in a military coat. "Aurora, I lost the watch, but I bought you a more expensive one." He carefully handed over a gift box with both hands. I glanced at him, annoyed. "For God's sake, let you psych. Leave me alone. You're so shameless. Can't you have some self-respect?" Julian moved closer, tears already falling. "Aurora, I love you so much. Why are you suddenly so cold to me? I really can't live without you." He burst into tears again. It's amazing how disgusting someone can become when you're sick of them. His eyes were red, still handsome in a way, but I felt no spark, no pity for him anymore. Once, heading till Selbstbewusstsein, I loved him so fiercely, maybe even shamelessly. I learned to make dumplings and prepared a week's worth for him, only to find he'd given them all to his comrades and Leela. "Sister's dumplings are so delicious. Next time I want seafood stuffing," she'd said. The man I cherished so deeply didn't love me at all, didn't care about me. He was often away, and I'd send him warm clothes and gifts. But he never wrote a single letter or called to say thanks. He even took Leela under his wing, giving her his time, love, and money. Was I a complete fool? But who defends women's rights in marriage? Why do we demand women be faithful till death while men are allowed to have multiple wives? It's disgusting just because we're not men. The world is a giant Aldebaran prison. So women must have careers. We can live on our own. Don't rely on men to change your destiny. It will only make things worse. Men always feed on women's flesh and blood, leaving nothing but scraps. I picked up the gift box, and Julian finally smiled. The next second, I smashed it in his face. "Get out. Love is not a child's play, and it cannot tolerate a third party. Only women are foolishly loyal, while men want to have concubines once they're successful. I won't be stupid anymore. Relying on myself is more important than anything. It's better to fall out of love." Women should learn to love themselves more, should be obsessed. Not the woman giving unconditionally without return. Julian, ne carlo sorry. Get lost. You're trash. And I hate you. Julian coughed miserably and spat blood on the ground. I love you so much I can't lose you. Please don't drive me away. He clung to my arm. Tears streaming. I slapped him without hesitation. Are you done? Everyone thinks you're so devoted. But you're just a scumbag. If I were an ordinary girl, you wouldn't even look at me. He disdained anyone without connections. Always acting superior. The moment someone lost their years, he'd cast them aside. He was vicious, ruthless, and pragmatic. No. That's not true. I like you any version of you. Please don't abandon me. Furious, I grabbed his collar. Stop wailing, Yuri, just disgusting. Julian was heartbroken. But I didn't hesitate for a second. Aurora. I refuse to break up. We're getting married soon, I don't want to miss you. He nearly knelt, shaking all over. But I remained cold, no love. No pity. Get out. When Julian tried to hug me, I staggered back in horror. Winston shoved him away. Angry. Are you deaf? Aurora doesn't like you, stop being a creep. Stay out of this, don't ruin our relationship. Julian swung a punch. I kicked him in alarm. This isn't the place for your tantrums. Winston looked at me pitifully. Younger sister. He's scary. Unlike me. I only care if you're happy. Julian, Ninen, give it up. Even if you die, I'll never marry you. I wouldn't waste another second on trash, my past life's death would have been in vain otherwise. How desperate it was to be betrayed by both husband and son. I never want to go through that again. Winston and I walked away, leaving him shouting behind us. Aurora, come back. I'll succeed. And you'll see I'm the only one worthy of you. He roared. But I didn't soften. Don't waste time on garbage. It's not worth it. I went to Tiantuan City with my mentors. The situation there was unstable. I helped peacekeeping forces, using my medical skills to save lives. The world is not peaceful, but our country has always contributed to global peace. I believe my mother would support my choice. Even if the road ahead is uncertain, I face it with a smile. If no one helps me climb to the clouds, I'll tread snow to the mountain peak myself. Women are phoenixes, so we don't need to rely on men. It's already a blessing if men don't drain us. Expecting favors from them is impossible. Winston was on a mission for the organization when his fighter jet was shot down, leaving him injured. When soldiers carried his bloodied body in, I nearly fainted. I couldn't bear to see any hero hurt, especially my friends. I had to stay calm and treat him. With difficulty, Winston reached out and opened his hand to reveal a sapphire ring. I love blue. He mouthed. For you, please take it. I continued disinfecting his wounds as he gritted his teeth in pain. I'll accept it when you recover, Comrade Winston. Please cooperate with the treatment. We both harbored feelings for each other, but never spoken them. My heart was in chaos, I feared losing him. For some people, just knowing they're safe is enough, even if they can't be together. I'm destined to dedicate everything to my country and people. Love isn't a necessity. The complexities of love and hate are too much. I don't want to feel the pain of hope turning to disappointment again. Winston kept looking at me, tears falling like crystals. A nurse wiped his tears. Be strong, hero. His body was charred. Even steel wool to scrub off dead skin didn't work. And anesthesia barely dulled the pain. Though he was a man of iron, he barely groaned. Men can cry too, I said. He mouthed. Aurora, I love you. I'm afraid it'll be too late if I don't say it now. You have to survive. I snapped, my voice rising with anger and tears in my eyes. A nurse wiped my face. Please stay with us. Okay? I softened. We worked together for over 10 hours. The surgery was a success, and he was wheeled to the ward. I collapsed to my knees. Exhausted, only willpower had kept me going. War is merciless. But humanity is not. Those with hearts don't want war. But ambitious beasts always seek to plunder. Our country must be strong to have peace. Backwardness leads to being bullied, as at worth spoken by great leaders. Truth lies within the range of cannons. Only when the country is strong can its people live in peace. I stayed busy, treating all heroes equally. Every time I did rounds, Winston smiled at me. New skin grew over his wounds, and the ointment I developed left no scars. Aurora, am I still ugly now? You're beautiful. Inner beauty matters more than outer beauty. When I recover, let's be together? His eyes were full of hope. I blushed and coughed. Okay. We are all straightforward people, without any ulterior motives. When he recovered, I gave him a potted plant, and we hugged each other. Aurora, I will love you all my life. I am loyal to the motherland and to you. I kept his face tearful. Let everything follow fate. When people expect something, they often lose it. It's better not to delude ourselves. Winston grew urgent, cupping my face and gazing at me tenderly. I swear on my life that I will always love and cherish you. I will never fail you. Otherwise, may I die without a burial place. His resolve was so firm that I was moved to tears. May all true lovers eventually be united. We held each other tightly, foreheads pressed together. A year later, we held a wedding. Winston gave me all his salary, and we both had our own careers and ideals. He was responsible for maintaining world peace, while I focused on healing the sick and saving lives. A beautiful woman who liked him sent him a love bento. Bob, I don't like you. Please stop sending these. Commander, I adore you. She blushed shyly. I love my wife. Don't set your sights on a married man like me. I dislike you. Winston was blunt with others and never minced words. The girl ran away in tears. My best friend Autumn envied me. Winston is so good to you, he gives you his salary and is faithful. Do you have any secrets to keeping your husband obedient? When someone is devoted, they don't need to be monitored. If someone betrays you, no amount of supervision will help. I took it with an ordinary mind, knowing how unpredictable human hearts can be. Our loving marriage also earned the respect of our superiors. After all, those who are responsible for their families are more likely to be promoted. The leaders developed more advanced weapons to safeguard the motherland's dignity. We do not initiate war, but we must have divine weapons for self-defense. 10 years passed in a flash, and my husband and I returned to the capital. We were allocated a house, where we planted flowers together, and our ragdoll cat, Marshmallow, had accompanied me for 10 years. She was still as adorable as ever, like our child. We had been DINKS double income, no kids for years, with a deep and loving relationship. Now that we had time, we decided to adopt a dog. Winston put a 3-layer pearl necklace around my neck and hugged me. My wife is the most beautiful. I love you. I love you too. He always surprised me, never forgetting any anniversary, even ones I had forgotten myself. We also used part of our salary for charity, giving back to society. One day, while buying pet food, I saw a tall, upright man. Aurora, I heard you returned to the capital, so I took leave to come see you. I looked at Julian with disdain. Can you stop bothering me? Don't try to disrupt my life. I was wrong before. I've been working hard to earn merits and get promoted. Now I'm a commander. I did it all for you. So what? Your success or failure is your own doing. Don't pin it on me. I still treated him coldly, refusing to change my attitude because of his status. Aurora, I've never forgotten you. You're the first love I'll always obsess over. I can make you happy, divorce him and be with me. My heart remained calm, untouched by his words. Are you shameless? I have a family, yet you keep pestering me. When will you, a monster like you, realize that people need a conscience? You have a family too, yet you're still so disgraceful. I didn't believe that men with first love nostalgia would stay unmarried or single. Men can date and have children even without love. I never married. I've been waiting for you to come back to me. I regret letting you go. Even if you have a husband, I must have you. He grabbed me and dragged me to his Mercedes G-Wagon. I couldn't scream for help, disgusted by his actions. Why wouldn't this demon leave me alone in both my past and present lives? Tears of fear streamed down my face, afraid of what he might do. No matter if he were an emperor or a general, I would never love him. I love you, Aurora. After all these years. You're still so beautiful. Tears welled up in Julian's eyes as he held me, sobbing bitterly. I can't forget you after all these years. Please come back to me. His eyes pleaded deeply, as if I were the moon goddess he had long adored. Sorry. I wasn't good enough back then. Do you think I broke up with you because of your low status? I care about character. If I love someone, even a stone would look like a jewel to me. But you're garbage. Rotten to the core. Just disgusting. Though calm, I still harbored hatred for him. Having lived a good life, I was no longer as aggressive as in my youth. Julian collapsed, slapping himself with my hand. Aurora, please divorce him. I'll make you happy. Don't you want to be a commander's wife? I scoffed and slapped him. You're so despicable. Why would I accept you? Trying to force yourself on me now, how disgusting. Both my husband and I worked diligently and held military positions. But we never acted arrogantly, seeing ourselves as ordinary people. You must belong to me. I love you so much. His eyes were filled with obsession and madness. Ask yourself, do you really love me? It's just your obsession with the unattainable. You have no right to control my life. I have never loved you. Even after speaking plainly, he refused to wake up. He took me to a manor as luxurious as a palace. I built this palace for you. We'll never be apart again. I only thought he was insane. A person with such warped values could never serve the people well. Such garbage made me sick. He had someone dress me in a wedding dress with a 32-meter train. Julian stood confidently at the end of the red carpet, staring at me. Aurora, today is our wedding day. You'll never leave me. I was injected with a drug. Too weak to run. Two people dragged me forward as hatred filled my eyes. If you force me, this isn't love. You'll never win my heart. Julian remained obsessed, running to hug me. As long as you're by my side, I'll treat you better. I don't believe you won't change your mind. Can anyone else give you a life of luxury? I don't seek luxury. I only want ordinary love. Over the years, we had worked hard without taking shortcuts. But my life was always being destroyed by this demon. He put a gemstone ring on my finger, triumphantly raising his brow. I finally married you. Julian scooped me up in a princess carry and strode into the castle. No. Stop. Just then, SWAT officers arrived. Julian, you're under arrest for corruption, bribery, illegal land grabs, and kidnapping Aurora. You've been stripped of your position. Hands up. Julian collapsed to his knees, howling at the sky. Why is fate so unfair? I was about to be happy with you. But now. Fine. Let's die together. His ring had a hidden mechanism, revealing a sharp blade. I paled in terror. Don't be impulsive. Bang. Gunfire rang out. And blood spilled. Julian was shot in the abdomen, coughing up blood. Dear. In the next life, I won't lose you again. I felt no pity, only revulsion. A SWAT officer helped me up, and my legs trembled. For a moment, I truly thought I would die a tragic death. In the hospital, Winston stayed by my side, crying. It's all my fault. I failed to protect you. I pinched his face and smiled, shaking my head. It's not your fault. From then on, we lived happily together, rescuing more stray animals,